Multiverse is a concept about which we know frighteningly little.
Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute detail.
Emotional damage.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Marvel Mondays, everybody. Man, it's been a while since we had one of these. Yeah, I think the last one was all the way back in late February when Ant-Man and the Wasp came out, and then we had the regular Screen Crusaders podcast. But let me go ahead and bring everybody in for today. So joining me today, we have on the panel the one and only my co-host, Mr. Oyman. How you doing, man?
Hi! It is me, Mr. Oyman. Gilded is working for the time being.
Yeah, hopefully it stays that way.
I'm excited about this episode.
I mean, I'm hoping it stays this way because we've all known. Apparently, we can't have this is the first episode in a while that there's been no technical difficulty. So hopefully it stays that way. Because if not, me and Microsoft are gonna have a problem. Also joining us today is Miss Cap. What is going on, Miss Cap?
Not much. Tomorrow's the last day for Star Math, you know.
Hell yeah.
And I invested in this really, really nice scene pop today. It's the Phase 3 Stranger Things pop where Dustin and Eddie are on the trailer and Eddie's shredding his guitar around the demo bats. Oh my gosh. So worth it. And it was the last one too, and I'm so happy I got it.
I like how you called...
Actually, Miss Cap is season 4.
Yeah, I like how
No,
you called it Phase 3.
I said, it's literally called Phase 3. That's literally what the scene is called.
Thing, or is it just...
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's the pop thing, yeah. But it's it's beautiful.
Well, what's Phase 1 and 2?
Was 4, right?
4, yeah, 4.
Oh, okay. With Eddie.
Season 4, but it's the scene is called Phase 3.
Phase 3. Okay.
So,
gotcha.
which is him shredding on his guitar so that it distracts the demo bats so they can go into
when
the
he's
house.
on top of the bus thing, right?
Yeah. So it's the actual the different phases of the plan.
Oh, okay. That's
okay. That makes sense. I was wondering. I'm like, what's Phase 1 and 2? But it's in relation to in the show. It was called Phase 3. That part.
Phase 3.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. All right, and last but not least, we do have the awesome, the crazy. Hey, it's your day today, JT, because today we're doing a spoiler cast. But I will say we're doing it after we get our initial impressions out. But after you hear this alarm, that's when the spoilers are going to begin. So glad to have you on. How are you doing, man?
It's been well. Today was my first on-site observation for my new job, and tomorrow I'll be in Fort Worth all day. I have training, then another on-site observation. So I'll be gone, but I'm glad to be here. I'm glad I can make it, and I can't wait to talk about everything that's been going on with Marvel. And believe it or not, do I have faith in Marvel after this movie? I do not, but I will rant once we get to the end. But I'm so excited to talk about Volume 3 right now.
You sounded so hopeful. I thought there was gonna be. I was gonna even be like, "Hey, let's not get too ahead," because I will spoil this part for me is that it was good. I mean, you guys heard it last week. I thought it was amazing, but I was gonna be like, one good movie. They still have a lot to prove. Let's see how their next projects are. But
guess what, motherfucker?
Let's bring in the bulletin board. So out this week, we'll start off the news with, this is not Marvel related, but there are some things coming out as far as the movie theaters go. We got Ben Affleck's new movie, Air, with Matt Damon and him premiering this Friday. Also this Friday, let me double check, actually, it might be Thursday. Nope. This Friday as well, we get the highly anticipated Nintendo Switch exclusive Zelda Tears of the Kingdom coming out. So anyone with the Switch, you got something to look forward to for sure this weekend. With that being said, we'll go ahead and dive straight into the first topic of the day, or news, which is we got information on our Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Man, that threw me off for a second. But it looks like they're gearing up for both this and the Spider-Man 2 video game coming out this fall on the PlayStation. It seems like we're starting to get some of the details and some marketing starting type of deal. I mean, I did see the new poster that dropped today because tickets did go on sale. What's up?
Also, Texas Morty, there is a news of like there's a comic in between Spider-Man Morales and also Spider-Man 2 where like we kind of catch up between Peter, Miles, and also MJ what we've been up to in preparation for Spider-Man 2. I think it's on like the Marvel app, comics app, I believe, but I don't know if you caught that.
Okay, I know. Yeah, I think that was for the free comic book day. I didn't know that already happened, but well, no, yeah, I think you're right. Let me search it up. I think there is. I read something about that. Let's do this live. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's already released. You're right. It's celebrating the prequel. Man, I might have to go check it out. I might have to see about re-downloading Marvel Unlimited and getting back onto that.
Oh yeah, I can help you with that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I definitely want to. That's a badass cover too. I want to catch up because if there's, I love this universe that they've done in this video game franchise, and I'm definitely looking forward to getting anything related to it, and just makes it feel like the actual game's a lot closer. So thanks for the heads up on that one, JT. All right. But also a report from Collider, and it highlights that the AMC theaters lists the showing of Across the Spider-Man at a runtime of 2 hours and 19 minutes, which is the biggest for an animated film. It seems like, or big animated film
of all time.
Yeah, and I mean that's
out of any animated feature film that's been released in theaters, it is the longest.
Yeah, and I mean the last one was what, just under two hours. It was like an hour and 50 something minutes. Yeah, so this one's definitely getting an extra little bump in time. Well, give me a second, which could be pretty cool.
MCU Spider-Man length.
Yeah, so they're definitely gonna have a lot to show, and I honestly can't wait. I also did see there was a spider cat that's not like the one from the video game, the bodega cat. Like he's got a whole little cute costume and everything. So that I was already sold on this movie. They just keep throwing stuff at me that I'm like, okay, hey, no more. I'm sold. Did you already get y'all's tickets, or are you gonna be getting them sometime this week?
Well, I'm gonna be out of town when it comes out, so I don't know when I'm seeing it yet, unfortunately. Yeah.
What about you, JT and Miss Cat?
I'll probably end up seeing it like opening day or opening night. I don't know yet.
Yeah, I plan on seeing it when it first opening weekend. It's gonna be great. It's massive. It's big. I mean, I think the whole panel, we kind of love the first one. It's kind of cool how like this movie is going to coincide kind of similarly with the video game Spider-Man. I mean, but not like kind of coexist. Not in the same universe, but it's kind of cool. Like you have Across the Spider-Verse Part 1, also the Spider-Man 2 game, which I am planning on getting when it released because no doubt Insomniac is doing a great job with both Spider-Man and Spider-Man Morales. And so I can't wait to get the game. But yes, I am definitely seeing this movie when it comes out opening weekend because I don't want no spoilers for me. I want to see it on the big screen as possible, and so I am looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, I wonder how the game and the movie are going to coexist, because like you said, there is going to be some sort of coexisting because you see the Spider-Man PS4 version Spider-Man in the background in some of these shots, and he's actually in 2 of the posters already. So they're definitely banking on letting you know that he's going to be in it. So I wonder if that's going to have any sort of play in the actual game once we get our hands on it this fall.
We don't know.
Don't know.
All right, so let me move on to the other.
I mean,
Oh,
I
go ahead,
also
Miss Cat.
will be seeing it soon, but like not when it comes out because I also will be out of town. So hope to see it soon.
In time for the spoiler.
Then later, yeah.
Spoiler podcast that following Monday. I'll definitely have seen it by then.
Oh man, it looks like if JT's not gonna be able to do it with me, it might just be me by myself.
No, I
All right.
Okay then.
I was gonna be
There we
like,
go, see?
is like I know my wife enjoyed the first one. She's probably gonna look forward to this one, but she hasn't really been keeping an eye out. She's been busy, so I know that she doesn't have the same enthusiasm as like we do. So I was worried I was gonna have to see this alone, but I'm glad you could.
JT's got you.
All right, I'm so happy, that's why you're awesome, JT. But moving on
I'll
to
be
the.
there
I'll
side
still
by
see it
side,
with y'all.
100%.
All right. So the second
Definitely
piece
I'll
of
get-
news that came
we'll all
out
see it
is
together, I'm sure.
due to the writer's strike, Marvel's Blade gets delayed.
Yep.
Shut it down.
This movie,
Delayed.
this movie's delayed again.
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 I don't know. I mean, hopefully, and I'm pretty sure they will resolve this before they have to actually move it too much. Hopefully, but this movie is it just me or does it seem cursed? It's like they announced it way too early.
Yes, it is.
Then there's a bad script.
New
Then there's
The
problems.
Flash.
Yeah, it's MCU's the Flash.
Yeah.
Is this a real movie? We don't know.
Yeah, so they
Virtual
were.
Ollie will be 850 by the time they start filming it.
Yeah, and I mean, they were barely gonna. They were in the writing phase itself, weren't they? Like they were rewriting it. They had just gotten a new writer, and I guess it just.
Boom, writer's strike.
I'm just glad it's for like kind of a legit reason and not because of some other, reason.
Some other bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I like, obviously we're upset about it, but it's like legitimately for like a legit reason. And like, I mean, I'm mad about it, but like,
Yeah, no, I wasn't.
I'm not gonna cry over tears,
I wasn't too moved by it. I was more or less like there goes another delay. I'm not 100% surprised. Like you said, this one's a little bit more justifiable, but it's at the end of the day like it's third delay or second delay. It just seems like this movie just can't seem to get off the ground. So hopefully it all goes over well. And the one that did get me, though, is that they didn't mention any of the other things until I saw that today they said production, which was already well underway, for Daredevil Born Again. That one is the one that had me like...
No!
Yep.
Yeah,
But
that's
also
how I
for
was.
like a legit reason, but like you're just like, God damn it.
Yeah, but that was the only other project other than Guardians that I was really kind of looking forward to in terms of the MCU. Because after that,
Really? Was Blade?
No. We went to Daredevil.
Oh, Daredevil.
Yeah. Oh no, Blade. I mean, if it comes out and it's great, it's great. That's awesome. It's great, but
if it doesn't, oh well.
yeah, it's like I'm not expecting much after like the slight development hell that it's going through, because it definitely seems to be having issue after issue after issue. Do you guys think that they should just? Do you think it's too late to cancel this film, or do you guys think they should just cut their losses and focus on maybe putting some of that budget that hasn't been spent yet on it and shifting it and putting all those creatives to go help out with maybe one of their other projects they might have a little bit more faith in. Well, what do
I think they should cut their losses.
Yeah, do you guys agree with Miss Cap, JT, and Mr. Oyman?
Yeah, I think so because for one, just like Mr. Herman said, Marshall Ali is going to be 50 by the time this movie ever starts production, and if he has a better offer from like other directors and other studios that's so much enticing, they're waiting for Marvel to kind of
Get their shit together.
try to figure the shit out, and then but they can't though because they already did Phase 5 and 6 already, and Blade was supposed to be in it. So, I mean, they kind of cut back on their word? I mean, because right now it seems like it's getting a little dicey up in Marvel. So with this writers' strike, and also with how Phase 5 is starting out with 2 movies, and Secret Invasion comes out next month. I mean, that's kind of difficult, but if we can wait, then yes, I think they should kind of be, continue on. But Marvel, time is money, and they don't have a lot of time left.
I mean, it seems to me that they just had a Blade. They had an actor in mind for a Blade movie instead of actually having a purpose for the Blade story in the greater MCU, because of the amount of writers and everything that this has been going through, and the delay after delay. It just seems like they're just like, oh yeah, by the way, we could do Blade because we have a great actor for him who wants to play him, and we can get him sign on for multi-movie contract, blah blah blah. But they didn't actually have a place for Blade to fit within the MCU, is what it seemed like, and they're still trying to figure that out.
Well,
so
and that's
I'd
the
rather
thing.
they
Yeah.
just take their time.
Well, do you think at this point, like, would it be better to just kind of shove him in another project where he would maybe fit in, and you don't have to
They
try to
should-
figure out a
honestly,
whole
they-
story?
they sh- Just do what you did with Werewolf by Night. Do a Halloween time Disney Plus special with the actor that does set him up to show up in someone else's movie. Because at this point, it just feels like I just don't really know how much a Blade. I mean, now if they really are going to go full R-rated with it, like which is teased, then I guess I've never actually watched all the Blade movies. I've seen bits and pieces of them, but I wouldn't consider myself a fan of Blade, so
Well,
I could really care less exactly how they do it. But for fans of Blade who were wanting him to have a return to cinema, it would be cool to have it be R-rated like those other films. But I just don't see how that would fit in the MCU. So
well, real quick, Mr. Oyman, which is coming out first now? Is it going to be Blade or Deadpool?
Nope.
Could you hear me?
it was original. Well, Blade took Deadpool's release date, so it's supposed to come out like 2 months before.
Oh,
Pretty
okay.
close.
Yeah, because I was wondering,
it should be spread out.
because I know that they're planning on making Deadpool rated R, so I was wondering if like they were gonna use that as like an excuse to also do Blade rated R. But I honestly don't know what they're gonna do with that movie at the end of the day. We'll just have to wait and see if it doesn't
Miss Cat,
get.
Could you mute your mic?
Miss
Hard
Cat,
to hear. Morty.
Miss Cat, could you hear us?
Miss Cat, can you mute your mic?
Hold on.
What?
Can you mute your mic when you're doing that? I can't really hear Morty. It's really loud on your end.
Oh, is it? Sorry.
You're good.
Yeah, you're good. Well, like I said, we're gonna have to just play it by ear when it comes to this movie. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing. But it should be interesting. I could see it potentially just getting lost in the shuffle, kind of like the Inhumans did back in like 2018, 2019, where they did have something in mind for them, and eventually they just kind of put it in the back burner, and it kept getting delayed to the point where they just kind of stopped talking about it. And well, look at that, they put Black Bolt in Multiverse of Madness and called it a day. But well, we'll just have to see. Now, so for the next topic, it's going to be the main topic, the nice and nitty gritty. We had Guardians of the Galaxy come out to the public last Thursday for preview nights, and it's a quote-unquote official release was May 5th on Friday, and unfortunately, Mr. Joestar wasn't able to watch it this weekend, so he wasn't able to join us. But we did have Miss Cap. I want to hear her thoughts on it, and of course, I do want to hear Mr. Oyman's and JT's thoughts on it after having it settle in their mind and having watched it one or two more times. I want to hear how you guys feel about it now. But like I said, I do want to hear the person who watched it for the first time this weekend. I want to hear from Miss Cap and see what her initial spoiler-free thoughts were, how she felt about it, how this bodes for Marvel in her eyes, etc. So I'll give the mic to you,
Yeah.
Miss Cap.
It's, oh gosh, where to start? It is the most saddest, joyful, cruelest movie in the MCU, but it is beautifully well done. Like, I think that is like all the words I can get. Like, the amount of times I have cried, laughed, and just was like amazed throughout this entire movie experience was just like, wow. And like, without getting too much into, I just like literally sat there next to JT, just literally bawling my eyes out, like trying not to make any noise because it was like completely silence in the entire theater, even like after the credits, just like silence. Like, it felt like the energy felt like the end of like Infinity and Endgame, where everybody was just silent to the point of like awe, like this is legit over, like, you know. But it was like the perfect ending. You know what I mean? For these characters. And I can't wait to actually get into the nitty gritty of it, but all I can say is like amazingly well done. Like, James Gunn really took these characters to heart and gave them a true ending that the other characters wish they had. And yeah, I'm gonna end it there before I go into anything else.
Okay, and what about you, JT? How was your second viewing for this?
So the second viewing to me really hit harder than the first one because I knew what
You
to
know what's coming.
expect. But
Yeah.
yeah, but at the same time, I was just in awe. Um, piggyback what Ms. Cap just said. James Gunn really loved his characters a lot, and it shows in this movie. Has a lot of heart, has emotional scenes, also laughed at the same time. The humor was there. The fight sequences were amazing, and I'm going to take a hot take, and I'm going to discuss this further in my spoiler review. But a high evolutionary, I think, in my eyes, is considered a top two MCU villain as of right now because he was that menacing. And I know that a lot of people maybe in this group might disagree with me. That's fine, but I don't see any other villain that can at least come close to his menacing presence on screen. I'll put it that way. Um, I mean, watching the second time was incredible. Watched it with Miss Cap and seeing her reactions to different scenes, and it was just I have to really sit back the second time and just process everything because I think the first time when I saw it, I didn't really get a chance to process. But I think having a Marvel partner like Miss Cap, you can kind of see passion, kind of like the joy of these characters, not the setbacks as oh snap. This movie really kind of like took your joy away for these characters because you know that it's the end. Um, but that's how I view the second viewing. I know that if I watch it a third time, I'll appreciate it more. It's already a great movie, but I'll get to more on that hot take at spoiler review time. But I mean, it's in my top five. Like I said, MCU film. I still have Infinity War up there as number one, because of his impact, but Volume 3 is like either number 3 or number 4 on our list, but it was incredible. Please watch in theaters. Don't wait for Disney Plus. This is meant to be seen on the big screen. Please watch it.
All right, and what about you, Mr. Oitman?
All right.
How I know you've watched it at least 3 times by now. How was it for you? Those other times that you watched it.
Yep.
As good as it was the first time, I guess. It holds up really well. I already want to see it again. I love this movie. It's probably in my top 5 or 6 MCU movies. I think it's one of the best James Gunn movies. It's got a lot of rewatchability, especially when you do know what's going to happen. It does kind of. I was surprised how emotional I still was, even on my 3rd time seeing it. Like normally when I see emotional movies like that, once you've seen them a couple times, or once you get it that first time out of the way, you don't respond quite as strong because you know to expect emotional moments that are coming. And this one, it actually made it even more emotional. The fact that I was thinking about what was going to happen before it happened, I was already getting like choked up thinking about it. So when it really did happen, I was just like, that was a mess. But yeah, great movie.
Yep, I'd have to agree. After having seen it 3 times myself, I am under the impression I just cannot get enough of this movie. It's just something about it has really stuck with me. Like you said, it just watching it the 2nd and the 3rd time, knowing what's coming and everything like that, it still hits you. You still feel that same emotion as you do in the first viewing. And if anything, the movie just feels even better because it just flies by the 2nd and the 3rd time. I remember the first time I wouldn't say it dragged, but it did feel like it was a little bit longer, just because I was watching it at like real time, let's say, and it just felt like a 2-hour 30-minute movie in the best way possible. I didn't want it to end, but the 2nd and 3rd time I already knew what was coming. And it just, James Gunn was not kidding when he said not a single scene or moment of this movie is just basically bloat. I mean, you do have your comic reliefs there for a reason, but for the most part, every scene that's in here really feels like it's there for a reason. It's not, nothing drags by.
Nothing's wasted.
Nothing's wasted. You go in, and by the 3rd time I watched it, it didn't even feel like a 2-hour and 30-minute movie. It felt, I would say, just like an hour just went by. It went by so fast. And I still feel it is the absolute best ending that we could have gotten still. And James Gunn definitely, you could tell that he did learn from every other movie that he's made in the past and kind of elevated this franchise by taking what he learned both from Marvel, from his roots back in Slither, to what he learned from DC, which is quite noticeable in this movie. And the fact that Marvel just gave him, I saw on Twitter, he did say that they didn't even try to fight him. He just showed them kind of his vision, and even though it didn't connect to the rest of the MCU much, they just said, all right, here's the big old bag of money, and you get to doing what you do best. And you could definitely tell because it is like a James Gunn at heart movie with a Marvel skin, let's say, over it. Because even though it is a conclusion to these characters, it does feel like it is coming from his heart, and he's focused on telling what he feels first before figuring out how he's going to connect it to the rest of the MCU or anything like that. Anyone want to give any more pre-spoiler talk stuff before we get rolling over to the spoiler side?
Yeah, I got one. Soundtrack to this movie is great, but I think that in the context as a whole, it was the most impactful soundtrack. Because even though this is the last
I kind
movie,
of agree.
but like all the songs that James Gunn selected had meaning to it, especially at the end. and you just watch that like that 2 or 3 minute scene, and you're like, wow, yeah, you're right. I mean, you know, like you have to appreciate what's in front of you, and so but I feel like the music, the soundtrack in this movie had a lot of weight to it, and James Gunn knew that, and he just went on with it. And I mean, I I have no words. Like I have no words. This is remarkable.
Yeah.
All right, give me 1 second. I pressed that button for a reason. I spoke too soon. I don't know if it's the weather outside, because over here in the DFW area, it is starting to look cloudy, and it is starting to get windy and rainy. Let me just double check something real quick before we get into the spoiler talk. Give me about 30 seconds, and I want to make sure that the last few minutes have been streaming, because I keep getting an error message here and there saying that YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain a smooth streaming. Check on that real quick. We'll be right back. I am a little upset. No, it seems to be working. It's just going to be delayed. Like, it's still recording it. It's still doing all this. It's just people might get buffering, but if you do a replay, it's going to work well. What I'm more upset about is that I realized I had you guys muted, so they only caught the butt end of y'all's Jeopardy song and stuff like that. Which I was actually going to say, hey, I need to have background music, but you guys filled in for the thing, but once again, OBS.
Wait, how long were we muted for?
Just like a minute or so. They.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like the last couple minutes.
No. Just while you guys were doing the like Jeopardy song or the elevator music with your piano. So I was hoping that the audience would have heard that.
The audience would have loved it.
All right. Well, apparently it can't be an episode without some sort of technical difficulties. And unfortunately, half of these times it's out of my control. It's either the weather or Microsoft OS with Windows.
Yeah, it sounds windy where you are.
Well, that ain't me. I don't think that's me.
Oh. Well, you sound like you're outside.
I don't know.
No?
Are you sure? Is that the fan?
Yeah, I think it's.
Is it me?
Yeah, it might be you.
It's you.
Is that me? Oh.
Yeah, I believe it
There
is.
we go. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
There we go.
All right. Well,
Sorry, these new headphones, I don't hear a thing outside of my own voice.
Yeah, we only hear ourselves. We can't
Well,
hear like, how we come off on the stream unless we log into the like YouTube video.
If
or
it
something.
keeps it up with this internet connection, we might have to cut it short. But let's go ahead and just try to power through and go ahead and start the spoiler section.
Spoiler talk.
Spoiler.
So, if you haven't already seen,
let's get into it.
Yeah, if you haven't already seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in theaters, you got it exactly 5 seconds. Mr. Oyman, start the countdown. 5 seconds until we start talking about spoilers.
5, 4,
Thank you, Miss Cat.
3, 2, 1.
All right, everybody.
All right.
What the fuck did I do wrong? Tell me.
All right, so like JT brought up earlier, is Marvel back?
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Yeah, of course. Man, this is such an emotional, impactful movie, and even though no one dies, it's well, some people die, but none of our beloved Guardians really die. So even without that, you still managed to get a very emotional, very hard to watch movie. Even knowing the fates of these characters on the second and third time, like that scene with Rocket and such, I still felt some feels, let's say. But let's reel it back to the beginning. So we start off by having our heroes start rebuilding or doing more rebuilding, as we saw in the holiday special, where they're now in charge of nowhere and they're fixing it up. And they're trying to start a new like population there, kind of new society, and they're just there. You got an amazing opening with Rocket and how you see him being picked out at first, and then it transitions into him in nowhere with a very fitting rendition of Creep. And
Yes.
it kind of it's a very good start, because just seeing Rocket and by Radiohead, you see Rocket, you see how this song is kind of really hitting him because close to home based on the lyrics and how he feels, and it just, that song combined with that first opening shot of him as a baby, it really kind of hones in and lets you kind of get a feel of how overall this movie's gonna be. Like you do see some silly playing from Kraglin and Drax saying a little quip to Nebula when she asks him to dance, and he says that it's stupid. So you could still tell that there are going to be some jokes. It's still a Guardians movie at heart, but it definitely, that balance James Gunn does is. Did you guys get that same feeling? Like you knew you were going to be in a very somber, very dark movie right off the bat?
It wasn't just a joke. His line about dancing's for idiots, like that, is clearly sets up his entire arc. That line alone.
Yeah, but
for how the movie ends, but with the jokes of like, Mantis like, let me touch him to make him feel better. Like, that was all right there in line with the other Guardians movies in terms of the type of humor. But you could tell just how the start of the movie and then going into the first interaction with Warlock, like, this is going to be a little bit darker than the previous two.
Yeah, and speaking of that, you mentioned
even though
it.
The first movie of Guardians opens with a pretty dark scene as well.
Yeah. I will say, you mentioned Adam Warlock. I personally feel his introduction is probably the coolest part about him in the movie. It's probably my favorite part that he's involved. Not saying again that he was horrible, but man, what did you guys think of their introduction to Adam Warlock? Did it definitely showcase him in the way you guys wanted, or do you guys think it was a little bit too much? What were y'all's opinion of his introduction in this movie?
I didn't have quite of a problem with his introduction as much. I totally got your side what you were talking about last week, when you said like if he wasn't in there, it wouldn't have made like a big impact. But in the scenes that where he did make an impact, it was like, okay, that makes sense. Like, when he first came in, he's like the reason why they have to go on the adventure to save Rocket. And then at the end, where he saves Star-Lord. So, like, where he's in it, it makes sense. But also just his whole time, like, his old arc in this movie is like, I have to capture, Rocket to give him to, like, for my, for what, the sovereign, right?
Correct, yeah. The Sovereign.
Well, for
so, like, I didn't mind it. Honestly, the song he came on, it was, like, kind of perfect for him. I can never hear that song without thinking of Adam Warlock, so that's awesome. Yeah. So,
what
honestly,
did you think of his
I
power
didn't have a
levels in
problem
that
with them.
scene? In the first scene when he
His
first
power
came in?
level?
Yeah, what did you think of his power levels?
I say he's a very strong character, but I think if he had a little bit more time, we would have seen a little bit more development out of him. But for him just to be like, I'm just super strong and almost indestructible, okay, great,
Yeah,
it's like, oh, okay.
Some
and
say
then like
they.
we just move on to everything else.
I would think some would say that they definitely could have used this guy on their side for Infinity War, but I mean,
We had to get a Captain Marvel.
Yeah, no.
yeah, he
know.
would have been pretty cool. I mean, it
I
would have
love-
made sense. But what were your guys' thoughts, JT and Mr. Oyman?
I loved what
Yeah,
we
I
got.
think Adam Warlock's introduction was perfect.
Yeah.
I get his part in the movie because I think that when he is going through the movie, seeing how much of a family the Guardians of the Galaxy is, feel like at the end he was able to make the right decision. Because I feel like his role was perfect in the movie. I feel like it was nothing more, nothing less. It was just because of he was seeing how the Guardians kind of cared for the full rocket this whole time, and that's why he had made that's why he made the decision. But with his powers, again, like I know that in the comics he's much more stronger, but but just what the Sovereign said, he's an infant, so he still kind of learned more about his powers and more of his development. And but the opening scene, it was like first 10 to 15 minutes in nowhere. I couldn't believe it. Like this, how the movie starts off, like doing those. It was like I couldn't breathe because it was just so much action, and then you have Peter and Rocket and then Mantis all fighting, and then Kraken's trying to get in the in the action, but to no avail, and Drax almost died because he got punched up with Adam Warlock so much. But I mean, like James Gunn did a great job at telling us, hey, this is not volume 1 or 2. This is the last movie.
Well, you guys,
And I'm going to put you in position to where you're going to feel this in every scene from now on. And he did that.
well, you guys mentioned he was an infant, and technically, and that is true. He was apparently taken out of his cocoon too early. But do you guys think that scene was effective as it was? Do you guys think, or do you guys think that he should have been a little bit more weak, and still be able to take care of the Guardians? Or do you guys think it was a better route to show him just mop the floor with the Guardians right off the bat to kind of set up how this movie's gonna start?
No, it was the way they introduced it was a perfect way to set up the character and show off his power level, but also the way that the character was written was a bit like a James Gunn character. But I just hope that they really are setting him up to be used, even if it's someone else using him. Like I hope they do actually give him some dimension, because what we got, I actually loved. The only thing I just would have wanted more, honestly. I wouldn't even change anything that we got from him. I really liked Will Poulter. When I first heard about him being cast, I was like, that is not who I would have picked for Adam Warlock. But, having read some Adam Warlock comics and seeing just the type of, powerful character that he is, I do think that Will Poulter just being cast as that character adds a little bit of dimension to Adam Warlock. So the fact that he was very much a background character who did still have some pivotal moments, much like Hope in Ant-Man Quantumania, I think that since this was his introduction, it was okay the amount they used him, since this is about the Guardians. And though I personally would have wanted some more, I was happy with what we got, and I understand that this is Marvel. He will show back up again. It's something else that'll give him a little more to play around with.
Yeah, definitely. And like I mentioned earlier, the movie, he wipes the floor with them at first. I don't know what did he, even though I've watched it 3 times, I can't tell. I don't know if it's because I have bad eyes or something, but is it Aisha that takes him away, or does he fly away after he gets stabbed by Nebula?
Flies away after getting stabbed.
Okay,
He flies away.
I thought he
Flies
technically almost died, and then he got revived by the little freaking, what's it called, MacGuffin med packs that they have that work on everyone. But unfortunately, sets up the rest of the story.
Where did those come from? Those have been in no other movie.
Yeah, no, they could really. I wonder if you would have, right after she fell down with Black Widow, if you would have been able to put it around her head and then bring her back.
Boom. Done.
Loophole.
Brain
But
restored.
But
I'm pretty sure he just got up and left and flew back to his ship.
Okay, because I couldn't see very well. It was very fuzzy and not the best of shot when he did that, because I couldn't tell what was going on. I just saw some sort of like fire going and flying away, and I'm like, and Kraglund's like, oh crap.
Nebula looks up and sees that he's flying away. It's either Nebula or Mantis.
Oh, looks like we lost you, Mr. Oyman.
Has jet boots on, like his energy beams. When he flies away, it looks like he has jet boots on, so it looks like the energy is shooting out of his feet, and it almost looked like he was flying away with jet boots, but I'm pretty sure it was just his power recharging or whatever.
Yeah, like in fluctuating.
But, yeah, I'm pretty sure he flew away solo.
Okay. But like I mentioned earlier, they have these MacGuffin med packs that magically fix a Mantis arm and anybody else who's kind of hurt. Groot did get ripped into pieces, and I'm surprised he was still alive, but he's just a head with legs. And the med packs seem to work on everyone but Rocket, which sets up the rest of the main driving force of the movie, which is that they find out he has a kill switch, and that it is all proprietary tech, and if you try to operate on him, he will die. If you don't operate on him, he will die. So that definitely already, for me, was pretty hard to watch. I had a feeling that the trailers were putting too much emphasis on Rocket dying, and it definitely, I was like, Mr. Oyman said a couple weeks ago, it's like probably red herring where they want you to think it is, and it's not. But even then, just seeing them get their ass handed to them like that, and seeing Rocket just like convulsing and frothing at the mouth, I actually started feeling a little something, and even right off the bat like this, I was like, holy shit, they're going from what I thought was going to be slightly silly to, okay, no, this is most definitely not going to be a walk in the park.
Stakes are high.
Yeah, stakes are definitely high. And where do we go from there after that scene, Mr. Oyman?
So they have to figure out, we need to find someone that can take us to OrgoCorp. And Nebula's like, I've got a contact. So then they fly out to OrgoCorp, where they're going to meet Nebula's contact, that she has agreed to pay 100,000 credits to help them sneak in so they can find a file pertaining to Rocket's coding. Which is the username P9.
Real quick,
P9
actually,
P13
before we get any further into that scene, I know you had a little bit of gripe, and I did too, with this specific scene.
What's
Do you
that?
think that they should have just omitted the whole Star-Lord being drunk thing? Because I don't think it went anywhere else in the rest of the movie.
Well, I thought the reason why that worked for me so much was because it does set up that he is kind of torn over the fact that they've been looking for Gamora to no avail. It kind of showed just how like broken the Guardians were and why it made sense for him to end up leaving home at the end. So while I do think that they could have used him being drunk at that, I mean, he even says like later in the movie, he says, "Oh, if I hadn't been drunk and Nebula put me to bed, maybe I could have stopped Rocket from taking this on, or taking on this ass whooping from Adam Warlock." So I understand why Gunn did use Peter being drunk there. It doesn't show him have any kind of issues with drinking later in the movie, because he doesn't ever come to that point where he feels the need to. He's like focused on the mission, which is saving his friend, and time is of the essence.
Yeah, but I feel like they could have used that as an excuse to have the reasoning why he didn't even have his helmet. But it literally, we had to have James Gunn explain it to us.
Yeah, I know. We talked
on
about
Twitter.
that too.
Yeah. He came out on Twitter and said, "Oh yeah, it's on his desk," and he just kind of forgot about it because he left in a hurry. But I'm like, well, you could have, that could have came up later on.
No, I'm pretty certain that when Gunn destroyed his helmet in the end of 2, it was supposed to have stayed broken, and for some reason, the only reason why Star-Lord had one in Infinity War and Endgame is because those are different writers. not James Gunn. So symbolically, I think James Gunn wanted it to be like Peter's mask got destroyed when the light within him got destroyed from defeating Ego.
Yeah, but why? That's also a little bit.
Gunn
like
realizes that there's a.
I could see that, but at the same time, it's not like his Walkman where it was gifted to him by his mom. If he had that tech before, he probably could have just bought another one. Because it is very useful.
Gunn didn't want to use it.
It is very useful.
Well, yeah, and they could have had one scene where he's like drunk and he's like, shows it that it's in his desk. There's like a shot of him. Maybe he wears it when they fight Adam Warlock, and then he could take it off, put it in his desk drawer, and then when he realizes that Rocket might die, maybe he starts to like return to drinking, but then he realizes, no, we can actually save him. We need to get to Orgo Core, whatever. And then there's like a 1 or 2 second shot of the helmet clip still being stuck in the drawer, which is why he never had it. But I mean, other than that, that's like really not minor.
So I'll let you.
I don't really think it's.
Oh, go ahead, Miss Cat.
What were you gonna say?
Like I don't think it was pointless. I think it was kind of a continuation of what the events happen in Infinity and Endgame. So like the reason why he's like depressed and drinking everything is because he lost his version of Gamora, but he's also mourning the new version of Gamora who doesn't know who he is. So I think it was kind of like setting up because he also like he whispered like Gamora when like Nebula put him to bed. Gamora. So like so like he's still kind of like depressed and mourning because of that as well. So like I see it and I know like, oh, the rest of the time he wasn't like that because, well, he was determined to save his friend. Like that was his main focus, you know? Like the drinking and stuff like that, that was a distraction to keep him away from, you know, the losses that he had. But when he's like, oh, I'm about to lose like my best friend, I'm about to lose Rocket, he's all like, then, you know, that becomes his main focus instead of, you know, thinking like, oh, I may lose my best friend. I'm going to continue drinking the entire time because I might lose him. Like, no, his determination, his mindset is, I need to save Rocket.
Well, I just feel like that could have been and made more sense. Like that whole little side thing would have made more sense more in the holiday special, don't you think? Where he didn't have a lot of screen time, so you could have kind of had him start off over there, because it just kind of, for me, felt like it came out of left field. It is understandable, but it just kind of was in there for about 30 seconds, and then was like, we're not going to even, like, encounter or talk about it ever again, and it's not even going to be the reasoning why later down the line he doesn't have his helmet that he could have really used.
Essentially saved his life, yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like they could have done a little more with that, even if it is just talking about it in a scene or two later. Like I know when Mantis and stuff like that kept wanting to talk to him, so it could have came up not by having him drink, but by having him like basically go to therapy with his family, almost like an intervention type of deal. Like, hey, once we get back, we hope that you don't go back to this type of stuff. But yeah, I see what you guys mean about the whole he's focused on the mission, because he did step up to the plate when it came to that. He saw his friend hurt, he saw he needed to save him, and he went all out on that. But I'll let you get back to it, Mr. Oyman, and the scene that came after. You were talking about how they were going to be going to Orga Corp and
Orga Corp. So
Orga
Corp, they find out, is the basically headquarters of this essentially like anthropomorphic animal testing facility run by the High Evolutionary. We find out that he has sent the High Evolutionary to go retrieve Rocket because Rocket's brain can help him with perfecting a species for his new planet that he wants to create, full of a perfect society, because he created a creature, Rocket, that ended up being smarter than him. So I guess maybe he sent people after Rocket a bunch in the past, and Rocket's always been able to stop them. But so he thought that maybe if he sent Adam Warlock, who was created by the Sovereign, which the High Evolutionary is also responsible for creating, that maybe Adam would be able to take down Rocket. And he very closely did, but the Guardians were still too strong together to stop Adam, which obviously pisses off the High Evolutionary. And yeah, from there, I guess the Guardians go and try to sneak into Orgocorp to get some information on Rocket and what can bypass the kill switch that's installed within him.
At this point, did they already have the very first flashback and where they showed how they operated on Rocket and how he met his...
Oh, that happened as soon as Rocket was as soon as he was like injured and on the table, we do get a flashback to him getting tested on and then first meeting his cellmates. And his very first word was the word hurts.
Yeah, that part kind of got me a bit. I was like, oh, this is this is where the rough shit
seeing little
starts.
baby Rocket with his scalped, that was really sad. I was like,
man.
Just the fact where you see
already with the tears.
Yeah, you already start feeling a little something. You see he has his Layla that cares for him, although she's not called Layla quite yet, but she shows that Lila. That she does want care for him as a friend, even though they just met, and even everyone kind of already knew where that was heading because you don't see him later. But you just hate to see these little creatures. You could see the effects that the High Evolutionary has been having on these people, but he hasn't broken their spirits, and they start trying to help
He's been
Rocket.
going Sid from Toy Story on that.
Yeah, and you could tell that they know that Rocket needs help at this time, that he's really scared, he's really hurt, and even though they probably are hurt themselves and not in the best of situations, they just offer their friendship to him. And then we end up getting, that was the end, I believe, of that first flashback scene. Miss Cap, were you already feeling it by then?
Oh yes, yep. That was my first set of tears. Was that first flashback? I was like, oh, we're going in this route, and I was like, oh, this is bad. I was like, that's my yep. I was done for. I was like, okay, all right. I'm like, all right, this is the last time I'm gonna cry, and I was like, nope, I was wrong.
Oh, very, very wrong. But
I was very wrong.
So where Mr. Oyman was at, that they're going to be sneaking into this facility that belongs to the High Evolutionary. We get one of my only other complaints of the movie as well is that we get reintroduced to Gamora, that she's been hanging out with the other Ravager group that's with Stallone and Miley Cyrus and all the other actors that we saw
no longer Miley Cyrus. But
oh, it's no longer her? Oh,
yeah,
man.
No, it was someone else.
Well, we get to see these characters again, and just like in Volume 2, I feel like they were a little bit squandered. Like, you introduce these what seemed to be pretty interesting characters that could be of some use here and there, and then you just kind of show up and grand opening, grand closing. That's the last you feel of them. Would you guys have liked to have seen more of them, or do you guys think what we got is fine? Maybe we could see them later, or do you guys not care if we ever see them later?
I think we could see them later, but if Gunn's not gonna come back and do any more, then it's like I feel like he only put them in there because he had plans for them in the future, and it definitely wasn't this movie because they were shown just barely a tiny bit more than they were at the end of the second movie. So if someone else is okay, if he's okay with someone else taking on a Ravager solo project that had them all, that would be really cool. Because I'd like to obviously. I mean, you have Michael Rosenbaum in there, Stallone. You have Krugar, who's a really cool, interesting character.
What happened to the We Have the Meats guy?
I
don't think he was there, was he?
Who?
The guy from the Arby's commercial who voices the We Have the Meats. I forget the actor's name. The big dude.
Oh.
He wasn't back. Ving Rhames.
Yeah, there you
didn't
go.
Come back. Michelle Yeoh didn't come back.
I wonder why.
Didn't come back.
Well, I could see Miley Cyrus because they replaced her with somebody that sounded just like her, but I wonder why they didn't do the other ones.
Michelle Yeoh is already in Shang-Chi, is why I think she didn't come back. I don't know. Maybe when she was teased at the end of the second movie, she didn't think it was gonna like, you know, have any kind of future or something. I don't know. It is kind of weird, but
Yeah.
if James Gunn isn't going to come back and do them, I wouldn't mind seeing another director, maybe someone that he might recommend to Kevin Feige to be like, yeah, I want this. I trust this guy with my characters, so let him have it. I mean, I'd be down, but again, there's still so much other shit for Marvel to get to, and I feel like if
Yeah.
they did do another Guardians related project, it would be the new team.
But what about you, JT? Would you like to see these characters come back at some point, or do you really not care for them at all, and don't really care if they do or don't come back?
Me personally, I don't really care because again, this is James Gunn project.
Yeah.
James Gunn baby. I kind of get what Mr. Wyman was talking about, having James Gunn's blessing, having somebody else director kind of take these characters like the Ravengers and all these different characters
New
into
Guardians.
a new movie, but it won't have the same feel. So I kind of feel like they should leave this alone. Maybe like in a decade from now, like in 10 years, maybe James Gunn
If Stallone is still alive.
might come back, right, and do like a Ravager solo movie, but as of right now, I don't see anybody touching these characters other than James Gunn. I just don't see it. I could be wrong, but I just don't see anybody touching these characters because James Gunn made the characters who we are and who we like as of now. But again, in terms of the movie, The Ravengers, I think they served the purpose. Again, this is Guardians of the Galaxy. The Ravengers were just side characters and kind of obvious, especially from like the volume one where the Ravengers stand in this franchise. But this is a Guardians movie, and even though the Ravengers seems great and have a unique backstory, they kind of serve a purpose, and the purpose was to drop off Gamora and leave. But this is a Guardians movie, and I think they had enough screen time, so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and then after they deal with the Guardians 3000s, they infiltrate the facility. What did you guys think of that whole let's say chapter of the movie once they get in? Did it work for you guys? Did you guys think it?
No notes.
Wait, what?
Loved it.
Oh, you loved it.
No notes. I loved it.
Yeah. What about you, JT? Do you think all the jokes in that section hit? The action sequences, do you think that also hit? Like for me personally, I loved it. Just even if the rest of it didn't hit, just Nathan Fillion, his role in it was just fantastic. I love this character. Well, what did you say, Mr. Orman?
It was necessary. It was really necessary because the rest of the movie.
Oh gosh,
it just kept going. It didn't stop. So this whole scene where they're trying to get Varka's information, it needed that. It really needed this humorous scene. The whole actor sequences, the whole Jennifer Holland's character being in it, which is, by the way, it's obvious because she is James Gunn's wife, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, she did great. Like Adam Warlock burned some guy because he's still used to his power, and so that kind of whole scene for me was really humorous because after that, I don't think there's any other humorous scene except for when they go to the New Earth. I think we will get there, in a moment. But besides that, two scenes technically, everything else had weight to it. I feel like the whole scene when trying to get Rocket's information needed that. If it didn't, we'd be talking about a whole sad, laden movie, so to speak.
Well, I want to know who that carrot guy was. He was kind of creepy, but he was pretty funny.
Carrot guy, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to say this entire sequence was so it was doing so many things and was doing so many things so well. Like whether it was Star-Lord trying to put on the Star-Lord charm for Gamora,
Yes.
which was really he was trying to yeah, he was basically trying to win her back and show her like who he is and why. Like, yeah, you came with us. We don't just hurt people. And the whole time, Gamora is just she's unchanged from being Thanos' daughter. Really, like she's found the Ravagers, and the Ravagers are people that will kill you. So that the displaying the new dynamic between Star Lord and Gamora was great. And then of course it gave us more of Drax and Mantis, which I absolutely loved when Mantis was just going around just touching people and making them do different things. That was great. But all of this set to the Reason song by Earth, Wind, and Fire, which is like such an odd choice, but just fits so well. And the use of Nathan Fillion and his characters, I actually really liked Daniela. What's her name from who played Ratcatcher 2? She was great in the brief role that she had, but it was still pretty pivotal because she was the one that helped them get the information they were in there for, and she did ultimately fall for Star-Lord's thing shtick he was doing. And then I just loved how the whole movie is kind of filmed like this, but this sequence in particular, the way that Gunn was filming with the sort of not quite fisheye lens camera, but it made it feel otherworldly. And given how weird the set design was and all the costumes and everything, it really gave this new fresh feel to it that we haven't really gotten in any of the other Guardians movies. So I dug the hell out of it. I thought it was a great sequence.
you mentioned that it's just there's so much going on, and I have to agree, like between the tones, the aesthetics, and just some of the batshit crazy stuff that's going on in this scene, it shouldn't work, but somehow James Gunn manages to pull it off.
Gunn did it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how he did it. It worked. It was interesting. It was funny. It did have some kind of like oh shit moments, and the VFX were also very top notch. That's one thing I will say about this whole movie is that you do not get no floating head from Thor, Love and Thunder, or none of that bullshit that you got on some of these other projects. The VFX, the animals look amazing. This whole section sequence looks great.
Nothing looked like MODOK.
No, everything was just
no.
Like it reminded me of the visual fidelity and like just amount of work put into what they probably did to Infinity War for me. It was cranked up to 11. What did you hear, Mr.
I heard this movie had the most prosthetics and like alien face masks that were CG from any movie. Like it beat Star Trek, Star Wars. Like this one had the most, which is
the previous title holder to that from Universal, the live action one with Jim Carrey, and this one beat that one out. And that I admire them for that. I'm so glad they did it because, like I said, they do have very good CGI in this. But even you could tell that they still put effort into trying to keep as much as they possibly could with prosthetics and just real stuff. But with that being said, after we see them get some of this information out of this facility, we start getting a little bit more flashbacks with Rocket, and we start seeing more background to, I hope I don't butcher his name, to Shakwudi Iwuji.
Shakwudi
Iwuje. There you go. His take on the High Evolutionary. How was he for you guys? I want to pass the mic over to JT because I know he had a hot take, and then I'll let Miss Cap and Mr. Orman go from there.
Yeah, I think for me, like I said earlier, he's a top 2 or 3 villain at most, because of the way. I mean, like I said, like for the first scene when he got Rocket out the cage, it was his conversations, especially in the second flashback when Rocket and him, Baby Rocket was looking at classical music, and he was talking about this is from Earth. I'm going to create a new Earth, and you're going to help me with that. And then from then on, he was just angry at the world. He was just God-like figure. He didn't care for anybody, and it was menacing to watch. And I was like, dude, I have no idea, but the actor, I mean, he played in Peacemaker as well. He's a great close friend to James Gunn. He did an amazing job. From beginning to end, he was menacing because like, even though we didn't see him on screen, we kind of knew that the scenes that we all gonna see him, he was no bullshit at all. Straight to the point. He'll kill you if you say a bad word or like talk back to him type of deal. Especially towards the end. But like his special power is unbelievable, and that's why I think he's a top 2 or 3 MCU villain that I've seen throughout movies.
All right. How would you feel about him, Miss Cap? Do you agree with JT's statement, or what's how was he handled for you?
I agree with JT like 100%. He was so menacing from the first time you see him on screen. Like you knew this guy was going to be the most awful villain you have ever seen in your like entire life. Now, like most MCU villains, they have a backstory. They're blue villains, you know. There's something justifying their actions, you know, where you can argue with like, yeah, I understand like the villain's point of view. This guy is like there's no justifying what he does. You know, he is a villain from the moment you see him. Like, you know, this guy is like the worst of the worst, you know? And it was very kind of almost refreshing to see like a villain like that because most of the time when you get a villain, like I said, like they're blue villains, like they have justifiable means. Like, I want to create a better society because the society that I lived in, you know, did me dirty. So I want to create something that's better. You know, you're like, okay, that makes sense. Your actions kind of ruin that, but I understand why you wanted to do what you do, you know. But the High Evolutionary was just like, I want to play God and I want to create a better world, you know, because I can, you know. And the how he becomes more and more erratic from beginning to end, from like Rocket's flashbacks to like him at the very end. You saw how like, I want to create a better world. You're gonna help me with that, you know, almost like possessively over his creations. Like he's proud of them, but also like, but then once he's done with them, he's just like, no, you're done. I don't care about you anymore. Like, kill you. Like, I'm gonna kill you. Move on to the next thing. Like when you get like even from like the New Earth, like I'm just gonna destroy you because you're not perfect anymore. So bye. With no remorse whatsoever. With like, I know I created you, but you're just not what I want. I'm so sorry I have to do this. He's just like, nah, I'm done. Peace out. This next group of people are my my new stuff. Like, he was so menacing, and I have to say, he's like one of probably the best villains I have ever seen, at least through Marvel. Like, I was terrified of him. So I agree with like JT 100%, where I'm just like, man, you do not want to mess with him. And the actor, I don't want to mess up his name, but like he did such a good job, like such a great job portraying this character. And like, you know, like I would love to see more. It was like I want to see more of him because his means to an end was just like, I'm just gonna do it and you're just gonna have to live with it. And honestly, that's like it's just amazing, honestly. He did it. I would not want to mess with the High Evolutionary whatsoever. So yeah, that's my take on it. On him, did a very excellent job.
Would you agree with them, Mr. Oyman? Is it going to be 3 for him as one of the best MCU villains, or what's your take on him?
I don't know. I'm thinking about all of the MCU villains there are, and there are a lot of good ones. I mean, he's definitely no Annette Bening as the Supreme Intelligence, or Christopher Eccleston as Malekith, or I'm just kidding. I would probably say, I would probably put High Evolutionary, at least performance-wise, right? Like the guy was he as a villain that you're supposed to hate, did a great job. As far as like the performance and everything, he was great. I actually really liked. I liked him probably about as much as I liked Ronan and Ego. Even though Ego was more of like a third act reveal villain, kind of like Agatha or Mysterio or something. But I think I'd probably put him about on par as like the Red Skull, right? Like as far as villainous portrayal, Red Skull or maybe Ultron. Like I liked him right around there if I had to rank him amongst other MCU villains. But I've never really thought about ranking the villains, just because even the villains that I mean, I like all the MCU villains. I don't think any of them get quite enough to really work with in the films, aside from Loki and Thanos. But I think all the actors who've played them, their villain roles, have all done a great job. So I mean, with with the exception of the two I named earlier. But yeah, no, I thought he was good.
Yeah, I have to agree with Miss Cap and JT. I thought the actor did a fantastic job, and like they said, most of these other MCU villains, like let's take Killmonger or Thanos, some of the better ones, they do have some sort of motivation that kind of justifies what they're doing, even if it doesn't fully justify. They think they're doing right. This guy,
I thought this movie did that too, though.
well, yes and no. He wasn't.
The way he treated animal people was awful, though.
Yeah, but the other guys, they were like, "Oh, we have emotion. We just have the will." This guy, he was like so cold about it. He wasn't like Killmonger or like had a personal reason behind it. He just had a god complex, and he wanted to quote unquote better the world.
It wasn't like he was hurting Rocket and it hurt him to be like, "Oh, this hurts me to have to do this."
Yeah, no. He was like, he was so like so heartless, so like this. So he wasn't even really justifiable. He was just like, I'm bored of this world. I want to make things how I want them, and I don't care what gets in my way. I'm gonna do what I want. And it just, for some reason, even though he didn't have the strongest, like I said, no actual motive as why he was doing it, other than he wanted to make a perfect world. He just came out so callous, so heartless, so like not even intentionally mean, but so evil that he just, you just hated him. Like he was really up there with Thanos as a villain that I would probably remember just on his screen presence, just on the way he was portrayed, and just how much of a threat he was, even though he wasn't like this big end of the universe type of threat like Ego or Thanos. He did technically destroy a whole world, let's say, but at the end of the day, he was more of a personal villain for our heroes, and it's definitely amplified this movie, because without him and the actor giving this performance, we probably would not have gotten the same effect, because a lot of this movie working was hinging on Rocket and his relationship with the High Evolutionary, and how it's affected him and the team as a whole, because of the High Evolutionary and losing some friends at the hands of the High Evolutionary. That's the main reason why most of these movies, Rocket has been distant. That's why he, like in Volume 2, he pushes people away when he starts feeling like they're getting too close. So it was nice to see that actually work out in the end in this movie, as far as like a theme and concept went. So during this time, we make it to New Earth. We start seeing more of like the development between the Rocket and his friends. They show him playing, they show him bonding, they show him just hoping for the sky, or to like go out into the new world and see the real sky instead of their cages. They get their names and all these. Just, you could tell this is where it started kind of getting like, where's my guy? Where's
No. Wait.
Because the more the more they showed of these, even with the High Evolutionary trying to get these new perfect beings, you know that as soon as like you lie to yourself and you're like, oh no, I don't want to get attached to these characters, and they're showing them just bond and be so cute together, to the point where you're like, as soon as these new creatures are, I know for a fact this isn't, they're done with these subjects. And do you guys feel like those scenes that I mentioned where they're bonding and doing all this, were those effective for you guys?
Yeah, I think this the second time around, yeah, because again, watching the second time, you knew what happened, but the first time, you have that feeling because of how menacing the high evolutionary conversation was to Baby Rocket, kind of before that scene, and so like previously or whatever, but you kind of knew that okay, like this is a moment, but sooner or later, everyone comes to a point where it won't be as happy, and we. But James Gunn did what he does. He kind of sets up where we have hope, and then he just gets us down where we have to be emotionally caring for these for these characters, even though they're in cages, even though they're having a great time. Gets it to a point and says, "Hey guys, listen, you are members of the Guardians of the Galaxy because you guys know how this feels like in your life, and this is where it's going to hurt you the most." And so, yeah, but that moment when they're on the floor telling their names, it was precious. It really was. But you kind of knew in your back of your head, it won't be long before something bad happens, and it did.
Yeah. Any scene that I might be missing, Mr. Oyman, in between that's worth pointing out?
Oh yes, I do. So when I think it's when the family pointed to what the highly evolutionary was, and Peter, was starting up the car, and
Get a first
Nebula
F
opened up the
bomb.
car. Yeah, like get the fucking car. I was like, yeah, let's go.
Now you're like, open the fucking
baby.
door. That's what it
Yeah.
was.
That was awesome.
First MCU bomb, F bomb. Great.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
First MCU bomb was Quantumania.
Oh, jeez. No, it wasn't. Was it?
Well, I guess,
No.
kind of. Yeah.
No.
I don't really. I can't really. It didn't. It was the one that lost them the most money. So yeah, Quantumania would be the first bomb, not the first F bomb, the first Marvel bomb.
Oh no, we're talking about the F bomb.
I know you said first Marvel bomb. So
no, F bomb, the fuck bomb, the fuck word.
Oh, jeez, we're dropping that.
Okay, Jesus.
Sorry.
It's a big point of discussion for some reason. People are up in arms about it, or love it, or whatever. It's like, okay, we've been getting F bombs in PG-13 movies.
I thought it was great.
Even Marvel movies.
It fit the moment, and it worked. It worked for that.
Yeah, apparently their first F-bomb was going to be in Endgame, and then the Russos were like, nah, we don't want to leave our legacy with that. And then James Gunn was like, Feige,
fuck it, I'll do it.
And he's like, yeah, go ahead.
And he'll know how to use it too, like where to put it at the perfect time instead of it just be randomly in there. And you're like, that was the F-bomb, but that was like perfectly well done. Like,
yeah, it was a little bit like I wasn't expecting it, but it just
when Wolverine
worked.
showed up in First Class.
Yeah,
it was like the best since then.
Also, another thing I want to say is that this movie's violent. Like I can't believe what I'm watching on screen because I saw these like little kids. I'm like, if you don't like animal cruelty, if you don't like violence, this movie is technically not for you. And in addition with the emotional weight of it, I was like, man, I feel like I wouldn't say this is the most violent MCU movie within all 25 movies, but
30.
I mean, like the way the violence portrayed again, like what Texas Moy said of how James Gunn did the Suicide Squad and like how he kind of used that style of violence within this movie. I mean, it worked, but this was technically not a kids movie per se.
Oh no, yeah, I 100% agree. They definitely they let James Gunn get away with a lot, especially on the violence and just the overall darkness of the movie. That you do see people getting cut, or technically cyborgs, but you do see like a dude later on in the movie. Groot like puts his Root's hands inside of him and then just like explodes him from the inside out type of deal, and just pretty gnarly stuff here and there. But before they end up fighting the no, they do fight the High Evolutionary, don't they? Before you get the main emotional damage.
Emotional damage.
Oh, damage.
What's
Yeah.
the next part? What's the next part that
The-
movie you want to talk about?
the
We've been
ship,
going
right?
For an hour and a half.
Oh, yeah.
Just letting you know.
So we do get probably the saddest moment of the film when
Oh,
you
God,
see
I
the
don't even
climax
talk about this one.
of Rocket's backstory, and you do see the unfortunate events where his buddies all die right in front of his face, and that's another part, Miss Royman, that was pretty effective.
I can't.
And the violence we were just talking about, you see like almost like a horror aspect in James Gunn going back to his roots, that you see Rocket just start mauling the High Evolutionary's face, and it's pretty messed up for a Marvel movie. Do you think they like, obviously it fit the scene, but do you guys think that was a little bit too much for the MCU?
No.
Or you guys cool with it?
I would have gone with it. Like it perfect. Like you like imagine like you created this bond with these like with your friends that are going through the same thing you are, and then to watch them just die in front of you, and you're the only one left. You all plan to escape together, and it's just you and the person who did it and who orchestrated it is right in front of you. Honestly, it was perfect for that scene and for his emotions, and it kind of was like it's Rocket. Like you know like that's the type of reaction that any person could have, let alone like an animal in that type of way. So honestly, no, I don't think he went too far. I think it was really perfect for the scene, and it kind of set up why High Evolutionary looks the way he looks now because of that.
I
you know,
have to agree with Miss Cap. If it wasn't any other movie, it would have been too much. But with the emotional weight of being the last movie and diving into Rocket's backstory is perfect. Like Miss Cap said, if if I was hanging with my friends and there's a shooter, and if all my friends die right in front of me, my first thought is just rage, and that's what Rocket did. And but the way it was shot, and in the aftermath of him running away, because if he gets caught, he's dead, like legit dead. And so the way that whole scene was shot of him crying, running, going out of space, not knowing what's next for him, it was sad. It was emotional, and James Gunn did.
I don't think there was a single dry eye in that
job
in that scene.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
By that point, I was like silent tears.
Oh,
like
I was straight up
I'm like
crying.
I was done.
Yeah,
I was crying.
I was dying on the inside, and my wife, she had her eyes on her, or her hands over her eyes, and she said she was trying really hard not to make a lot of noise while crying, but it definitely was very impactful. I think he nailed the overall feel of that scene and the driving force behind Rocket. It was just perfect. So like Mr. Oyman said, we will move on that way to the final parts of the movie. So we move on. They start destroying everything that the High Evolutionary was doing by they start regrouping. Not quite yet, but they're all kind of separated, and now that Rocket, he ends up dying for a second, which that
Resurrecting.
that scene was kind of ruined based on the trailers, because you saw him in a uniform, you saw him fighting, and up until this point, you just seen him kind of benched or being a young Rocket. So we all kind of, at this point, at least I didn't know that he was going to come back, but it still made his resurrection scene and his, going towards the light.
I cried that too.
Yeah, that part was still, it hit. Again, he's
but
doing...
what I loved about that scene, though,
was, hugging
is just
that was great.
Yeah. But, what I love about that scene is, the scene, right afterwards. So, you get this amazing emotional scene where, Rocket's almost dying and he gets resurrected. And, everybody's just like, oh, you're alive. It's great. And then instantly, not even, a minute or two later, you're, crying your eyes out. Next thing you know, you're laughing because, the team is separated. And you're like, what are you doing on the ship? I thought you were here. What are you doing? And it's and then you're laughing. I'm like, why am I laughing? I literally just cried my eyes out because Rocket was dead. It was such a whiplash, but super well done too. It was super done, well done.
Nebula called them as soon as Rocket was revived. He's like, oh, who's that? Why is Nebula calling you? Where is she? It was just kind of cool how Nebula and Rocket have had this history over the last 5-6 plus years, specifically because they were the only survivors of the blip. And it was almost like Nebula subconsciously knew that she didn't, that's not why she called, but just the timing was so perfect that she happened to call in for their help as soon as Rocket came back. And then she heard him on the other end, and you see her kind of break down, smiling and crying. It was it was subtle. It wasn't something that James Gunn held on, but it was an amazing acting moment from Dylan.
Yeah.
But so basically, after that, the remaining Guardians, or the separated ones that are Mantis, Drax, and Nebula, come across a bunch of kids that the High Evolutionary is planning on perfecting or doing whatever he wants to with a new planet, new society. And they basically have to help the kids escape, which the kids don't understand what Mantis or Nebula are saying, but then Drax is able to get through to them by acting like a monkey.
That scene was really cute for me. I thought...
I loved it.
Yeah, it definitely... I've complained about this iteration of Drax throughout most of the... since he was introduced. Because he was always just kind of like the goofy, dumb character, and they kind of address that in this.
Even Batista feels that way about him.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, they did him right by kind of showing... They showed actually some pretty badass scenes with him in this movie. He did get to do some stuff, some destroying, but that scene alone sets up for the fact that, hey, this is a different version of Drax. This version, James Gunn managed to take that criticism and give it a purpose by having him kind of oh, you're not meant, like Nebula says towards the end, you're not meant to destroy. You're meant to be a dad. You're great with kids. You've seen him take a fatherly role with Mantis and want to protect her and do anything for her type of deal. So it was really nice to see them kind of flip that around, those criticisms, and be able to justify why they did what they did. But after that scene with him doing that, they get captured by the High Evolutionary, and they already did. They get put in a cage with these monsters, and eventually they all regroup. Star-Lord, Rocket, and them blast into the place. They bring Nowhere from teleported in to their location, which I personally love because that's something that's
great scene.
That's something straight out of the fucking comics, and and stuff like that. They have used nowhere as like a way to get to somewhere and almost like a weapon like type, like a big shit moment.
Battleship.
And they did that perfectly here. That's what I loved most about this movie is the fact that they grabbed everything that was great from the Guardians from the movies, the shows, or not the shows, the movies, the comics, and even the latest video game that came out, and somehow James Gunn managed to blend it all together into a really badass, really like dark, really emotional story that just hit. I think that's what it was, because following them doing that nowhere thing, we get the Beastie Boys song playing, and Rocket's like,
Yes.
let's go save
And
these things.
thus enter the greatest scene
Yes.
in Marvel Cinematic history, possibly.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I was just talking with this guy online, and he was like, "Wait, what scene is everyone talking about?" And I was like, "The hallway scene." He's like, "Oh shit, I went to go take a piss during that entire thing." And
Ah!
damn, bro. Like, you just missed one of the greatest cinematic fight scenes probably ever. I'll be honest. The more I see it, the whole one take aspect of it was so fucking beautiful.
It was awesome.
I mean,
It was awesome.
It was awesome. It was like that one take made it feel really cool. The camera angles were cool. Just them working as a team flawlessly was awesome. And it is. It's what he learned from like Suicide Squad and such like that. And he cranked it up to 11. James Gunn was just like, you know what? Infinity War action scenes and some of these other Marvel movie action scenes were great, but just check this out. Like, this was, in my opinion, almost on par with some of the shit we saw in John Wick 4. Like, it was that level of fucking badassery. Yeah, I was just in awe. I was grinning from ear to ear with how just this is again a Guardians of the Galaxy in the comics before the movie came out were and are my favorite Marvel team of all time since I could even think of. And just seeing this on the big screen, it was just so mind blowing. It was everything.
Yeah, it was mind blowing.
It was everything a guy could have wanted.
Comic book scene that was that good.
Yeah, it was just badass. I feel so sorry for that guy that you said, Mr. Oyman, that was like, oh, I want to go take a piss.
Again, it's like, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, just for that scene alone. Like, geez, talk about bad luck on when your bladder tells you to go.
Yeah, he's like, I held my pee the entire movie, and then I finally couldn't anymore, and then I came back and completely missed it. I was like, damn. Ain't that a bitch?
And with that, after that scene, we do have them realizing that they're rescuing all these kids, and we see that Rocket acknowledges that there's more life forms on here that he does not want to see go, because he felt their pain. He knows that they deserve a better life with this. So it just shows the Guardians being Guardians of the Galaxy and saving everyone. And then it led to the big showdown between the High Evolutionary and Rocket, which also had a tag team really awesome battle. It's just, I can't get over how cool these working as a team sequences were. Like, again, not even the Avengers had some like this much coordination and were this badass. I don't think in any of their movies. But what do you guys think of,
level,
how they handled the demise of the High Evolutionary at this point?
It was perfect. Especially Rocket started, and just like again, like I get it. Texas movie about the video game. We both played a video game. I think Mr. Wyman did too, or maybe not. But
yeah,
you know, like when like you are in the video game, you are technically Peter Quill, but you are like, you know, trying to control, like, hey, do this, do that. That's exactly what these two big fight sequences were, and just everybody's tagging along, doing the thing. But with the High Evolutionary, at the end, that's what got me. I was like, okay, because you know when like the skin started peeling off, I was like, they really show this in the MCU movie, like legitimately, like the tendons and the eye, and I was like, they really show this in the MCU movie? Really?
It was almost like
PG-13. Like, wow, okay, wow, that was
yeah.
that was
No,
crazy.
It's almost like Red Skull, like skeleton face reveal type deal, but like much
Even
gorier.
gnarlier.
Because
Yeah.
Red Skull was an intention because of a botched serum, but High Evolutionary's face was because Rocket literally like scratched the fuck out of his face. So honestly, yeah, but I really did love kind of like his demise in a way that like he was just kind of left for dead. Like Rocket's like, I'm not gonna kill you, but you're gonna at least suffer for the rest of the time that you have on your doomed ship.
I'm not gonna kill you,
honestly,
but I don't have to save you.
I actually really like that. Like he was like, I could kill you, but because of the things that you've done, I'm just gonna leave you to your your demise. Like you literally just gonna leave you there, and you're gonna die on your ship that you're high and mighty wanted to. You destroyed a planet. Well, now your ship is gonna be destroyed with you. So honestly, I really liked the way it ended. It's like it was a good kind of like showing restraint in the very end, but like also like you still get like a violent death.
Well, and what I like about like up until this type of point too is, and the next scene after that when Star-Lord they do their fake out death for him is the fact that you're expecting one of these guys to die at this point, just how high the stakes would be. And they keep toying with your emotions. Like Mr. Oyman, you said that when you thought Nebula was or guiding the ship, that you thought that was when she was gonna like, I must stay behind, I gotta do this.
Yeah.
Then you have obviously like Rocket fighting the High Evolutionary. There's a few times throughout the movie you have Drax looking like he might not get up, and then you got Star-Lord, which he goes back for his Zune and everything's exploding. And he does this really cool scene where he's sliding and jumps off of the High Evolutionary ship, uses like a Wall-E type of deal where he uses compressed air to launch himself, but then he gets stuck. And oh man, by this time I'm on a roller coaster, and the first time I saw that, I was speechless. I'm like, no, don't you dare kill Star-Lord. like again, I love the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're my favorite Marvel team, but my two top heroes of all time is Richard Rider Nova and Star-Lord. I can't even remember how many counts I have under the name Star-Lord, like 95. So seeing that, I was over there trying to shake Mr. Oyman's arm like saying like, hey, but I couldn't even say anything. I was like, no. But did that scene get you guys, and were you guys like floored there too, or did you guys have a feeling he was gonna make it out of that one?
No, I thought that was done.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
They did a good job faking that one out.
They've been faking a lot of their demises. Like, it was like, which one? James was all like, which one do you think is gonna die? You think someone's gonna die? Okay, well, I'm gonna put them in this perilous situation. Oh, like the ship's going up in the air. Nebula, Drax, and Mantis are like outside, and they're gonna be able to get in. Oh no, they're losing air. Like it was like you're like, oh no, please, no, and then like. It was just like, and then you're like, nope, everybody's good, everybody's fine, they're moving on, and you're like, man, this is, it's like, like a fake out, but it was like a really good, like, emotional fake out, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Not like, ha, got you type of deal, and you're like, why the fuck did you do that? It was like, okay, that, it made sense.
It wasn't manipulative.
But also, yeah. So.
Yeah, I agree. And well, since we're running, go ahead, Mr.
We forgot to mention with Rocket, he's saving the animals.
And he gets his name.
Yeah, he sees that he is indeed a raccoon. I like how this sequence was actually kind of set up in the second movie, like with a brief. Like it was kind of like James Gunn does a lot of this, where he brings a lot of things full circle. But in the second movie, when Rocket's talking to Peter, he's like, "Oh yeah, of course, I do care about all the planets and the buildings and all of the animals on the planets." And Peter's like, "And the people." And he's like, "Eh." So it just showed how important it was to him to indeed save these creatures, because he saw what they were going through back when he was young, and even though they did were able to save all the so-called higher life forms. I absolutely loved the scene where just all these animals looked like Noah's Ark just unloading onto nowhere, and the monkey, they pass the monkey to the ladies. He just immediately starts scratching her face.
Yeah, she gets scratched up.
So amazing. That was like a great James Gunn. Just like only he would be able to come up with that, like that idea to put that in there. Like you wouldn't have seen something that clever and small and funny happen in like Quantumania or something, or Thor: Love and Thunder. Like that was just such a great visual gag. There were a lot of those in this whole movie, though.
Yeah, and like we said, we're at the 146 mark. So the final scene is the bittersweet part, the part where everyone's made it, but it's time to say our goodbye. So I'll let Mr. Oyman give his thoughts on this one, and then we'll just give our final thoughts and chime in, and end the episode for today. So I'll give the floor to you, Mr. Oyman.
All right. Well, the scene is kind of what makes the movie work as well as it does. If this sequence hadn't been as effective, the rest of the movie still would have been good, but I don't think it would have left with quite the same impact that the whole movie does, because everyone does. Peter basically tells them, we need to talk. He says that he tells them that he does have family back on Earth, and since he does say goodbye to Gamora and realizes that Gamora is going to indeed live her own life because she's a different Gamora, he decides to go back home to live with his grandpa, who he obviously hasn't seen in 30 plus years, probably 40 years, depending if his grandpa got snapped or not. But everyone else decides to kind of go their separate ways. They all agree that Rocket should lead the team, and the new team, which would consist of Kraglin and Cosmo and Adam Warlock and one of the girls that they saved from the ship of the High Evolutionary, who we'll get into in a second. But everyone basically says goodbye to each other, all set to The Dog Days Are Over by Florence and the Machine. And pretty much as soon as they start playing that song and Groot and Rocket are like dancing with each other, like from there all the way to the end credits, it's just like tears, man. Just tears coming out. It's just so fucking beautiful. It's so beautiful. But yeah, I loved it. It's probably one of the best endings to any Marvel movie. Maybe even more effective than the one in Endgame, and that's saying something because I love the ending to Endgame, but this ending was just really felt like saying goodbye, because Endgame, I still can't help but feel that it's kind of funny because Endgame ended with us for sure basically saying goodbye to Steve Rogers and Tony Stark, but I still can't help but feel that they will be back in Secret Wars or something, right? Because they're just too big of fan favorites that in my mind I was like, I know that. Whereas the way that Guardians ended, since not everyone dies or nobody dies, you already know there's that possibility of them also coming back at some point. But knowing that this is indeed the end for these characters together under James Gunn's writing and directing, it did feel like an actual goodbye, which was kind of heartbreaking, but bittersweet. It was awesome. I couldn't have ended the movie any better, I don't think. Or again, no notes.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is that it's not very clear because James Gunn had to come out and say, and I picked it up on the first watch, was the fact that at the end you hear Groot say, "I love you guys," and stuff like that, which was just beautiful to me, because after spending 3 movies with these guys, well, 3 plus because the special and Infinity War and all that, you've been there in their highs, you've been there in their lows, you've suffered with them and you've laughed with them. And that just was the perfect way to say you're part of the family. Because the scene before, you had Gamora all of a sudden be able to kind of snap and realize she understands Groot now too. So I felt like James Gunn did a beautiful ending. Like you said, Mr. Oyman, it shows like some sort of finality with, that they probably will be back. But it just does feel like you're still saying goodbye to them. Unlike Endgame, where you're like, yeah, you're saying goodbye to them, but... I guess it was masked by they were setting up Phase 4 type of projects that kind of undermine some of that feeling.
Exactly.
But this one was like, no, this
sort of loosely sets up things, but it was a goodbye. It was like
kind
of like the ending to Toy Story 4 in a way.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, okay, there's possibility for more, but it definitely feels like the end of this saga, like the end of this book. Whether there's more books or not, that's a different story, but this is the end of this core group, and
3 volumes.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I honestly thought it was very effective, very emotional, bittersweet, and I couldn't have asked for anything else. JT and Miss Cap, did you guys want to plug in any final thoughts?
Yeah, I do. I know that last sequence honestly had me in tears the entire time. And like JT will testify, like even as like the credits were gone and the lights came up, I did not move. I was in such like a state which, like I think JT tried to talk to me like in the credits, and I was like, "Don't talk to me." Like I was like so I was like in a shell shocked state because I was like, "This was so beautifully done." And like it took me a time. I was walking and I was still trying to process everything I watched. Like we were like out of the theater and I had to sit down for like I don't know what 10 minutes just trying to like process what I watched because like I was like I did not feel this way when I watched Infinity War. I didn't feel this way when I watched Endgame. And I'm all like why did this movie have such an effect on me even after like I'm leaving the theater? And I had to say it's because of the writing, the characters, the direction of the movie just had so much heart in it that you felt the goodbye. You felt that like this was the end of what could possibly like be like the greatest MCU trilogy of all time. Like I don't see anything else topping this trilogy at all. But like I was like it's a 10 out of 10 in my book. Like it moved up to like number 1 in my top 10. Like
Nice.
and my top 10 was like a Winter Soldier. So like it topped that and I was like literally shell shocked the entire time. It took me like what 30 or 40 minutes afterwards to really actually talk about the actual movie because I just was just trying to process everything. But I really, really loved this movie. It like kind of put my faith back into the MCU. Like I see something happening, but also I know that this is James Gunn's like goodbye letter to us.
Yeah, it's a
So
swan song.
I'm not expecting.
DC.
Yeah, and I'm not expecting, you know, greatness from now on. You know, I don't know.
So I give my final thoughts. In my personal opinion, the third act, I think in Volume 3 is one of the most satisfying emotional closure acts I think that I have seen in the MCU movies because normally in the third act, big CGI fight scene and that's it. But in this one, more closure because again, that's what I meant. We all of us are saying this throughout this podcast. James Gunn, director, writer, he knows these characters inside and out, and he knows us as fans. Um, just that last scene. I need to watch Volume 1 and 2 again because I know that in the afterlife, before Rocket gets resuscitated, Lila says, "You are the Guardians of the Galaxy. You are the story." And it'd be kind of fascinating for us to kind of come together and rewatch all the movies to find out why Rocket is kind of the vocal point of all the movies. That's something to think about as we try to process and rewatch all the movies. But for the third act, it was great. Do I have faith in DC? Yes, I do, because James Gunn is the head, and he's going to do Superman Legacy, and
He hasn't done
I
a
have
bad
faith
movie
in
yet.
him. I know, but it's James Gunn. So I know that the main question you guys maybe have for me is, do I have faith in Marvel right now after Volume 3? The answer is
No, you don't.
semi. No, I don't. I don't. I don't
Yeah,
because for one good reason is that I think James Gunn,
Marvel's losing him.
Marvel lost a great director, a great friend, a great knowledge of comic book characters. in James Gunn. I know he's in the inside and now invested. They don't have any other directors in the future that has a invested knowledge of these characters more like James Gunn, except for the Russo brothers, part like in phase 1, 2, and 3. But besides them and James Gunn, they don't have those directors who are truly invested in the work other than you are hired and you will do what we told. They don't have that macho of a man who, no, I will build these characters the way I see fit under your guidelines. And so, like we all talked about, it's a great movie. I kind of, one other point before I let Texas Motor go, I kind of like at the table when they're playing poker, we see Howard the Duck. They're kind of like, hey, I'm still here in the Guardians universe. That was kind of cool. But other than that, I have to agree with his Cap. Is in my top 3. I still have Infinity War as number 1 because of how it impacted everything. But Volume 3 is up there, and so that's all I can say. Texas Moody, you're up.
Yeah, I want to go ahead and close this episode. I mean, yeah, we have gone almost at the 2-hour mark, and man, it's hard breathing in this in this room. I have to have the fan on so that it doesn't make a lot of noise, and my 2 monitors and my PC are really heating this place up. So if I'm over here like, it's because I'm sweating up a freaking storm in this stuffy little room. It's like a sauna in here.
Damn, really?
No. Well, it's working, but I don't have it set up really low so that, again, because this microphone will pick up a bunch of background noise. So I try to keep it as quiet as I possibly can in this room at the cost of my own, I guess, sanity for my heat temperatures. But with that being said, I feel like we basically covered the whole movie, talked about how well they landed this ending, like you guys are saying. I cannot agree with you guys more. It is the best trilogy in my opinion in the MCU. It goes up to the top 3 like contender wise. We'll see how I feel at the end of the year, but I'm me personally, it's just living like rent free in my head. I cannot stop thinking about it. I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year I'm still feeling like it is my number 1 movie, just because of how well it was handled, how everything just landed perfectly for me. I'm glad that the listeners were able to stop in and tune in with us. If you haven't already, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed so that you can keep up with our latest episodes. Hopefully we get more content in soon, like game streaming, skits. Oh, man, hold on. It's hard to breathe. Skits and obviously more Marvel Mondays and the Screen Crusader podcast coming along the way. And of course, I can't close out the episode without saying thanks once again to the fantastic panel. You guys, without you guys being here to shoot the shit with me about these projects we feel passionate about, the channel wouldn't be the same. So I truly appreciate you guys taking your time out of your Monday evenings to join us and just geek out with me and the audience. Thank you, Mr. Oyman.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Miss Cap. And, of course, thank you, JT. With that being said, I will hope to see everybody who's tuned in today and maybe share us out to get more people in here on the next episode of the Screen Crusader podcast or Marvel.
You know how much I sacrificed?